Today I'm joined by an Irish football coach by the name of Graham Coughlan, who has now been the most recent Newport County manager, who of course managed in that famous loss, unfortunately, 4-2 to Manchester United. He's played for Blackburn, Swindon, Burnley and so many more. And Graham, I welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Jamie. Pleasure to be here.
As I mentioned before, you've played for so many clubs, especially Burnley, these big teams that are now formally competing in the Premier League. You were born and grew up in Ireland, in Dublin, and on November the 18th, 1974. And you grew up as a Manchester United fan, where your dad was the predominant figure in your footballing upbringing. So talk to us about your father, what he was like, and how you got into football.
He was a tough man. He was harsh on us. It was like any other father. He had an unbelievable love for his children. He pushed us. He drove us. He pushed us all the way. My granddad played a big part as well. You know, my granddad used to follow me all over Dublin on the bike. Any game he could get to, he was there. And he used to go on the bike, and we'd pass him by when we're in the van or in the car or whatever, you know, going to games. So yeah, they were really they were really into my development. They were really into me football. They were really into helping me and pushing me dad and my granddad. So yeah, it was the two of them would have probably been instrumental in anything I'd done as a kid, to be honest.
They were always around football. When did you start to get into football? Because obviously Manchester United was the team that you supported growing up.
Well, I always loved football, but you've got to remember where we grew up, the school we went to, the area we grew up in as well. It was predominantly Gaelic football. You had to be able to box as well. And football was probably, if I'd be honest, around about second or third sport on your agenda. If you were playing football in the schoolyard, you used to get a tick ear. The priest or the nun would give you a clip around the ear, pick the ball up, put it in your hands. None of that foreign sports. That's what you'd be told in school. They'd want you to play Gaelic football. So yeah, it was. It probably wasn't until Jack Charlton came across to Ireland, and he really put us on the map, footballing wise. And I think it just unbelievable impact, unbelievable man. I've never seen anything like it. How quickly it's taken off. Yes, it was always popular. Yes, it was always a sport that people played, but the sport just grew so big and so quick when Jack got a hold of the Irish team, and the memories and the trips he took us on, you know, to Euro 88 and to Italia 90, you know, USA 94. The country, a 10, 12-year period, the country just absolutely exploded with its love for football, really, to be fair. So yeah, it was around about the Jack Charlton era that I started to put the ball on the ground when the nuns and the priest wasn't looking, started to kick it about, and lo and behold, I ended up getting fortunate and moving across to England.
For those people who are in England and maybe around the world, they won't be too commonly known about what Gaelic football is. It's quite an Irish sport. So could you go ahead and tell us what that is?
Oh, it's brutal. It's the equivalent of murder ball. I used to love playing it, the physical side of it. Obviously, it's you have the ball in your hand, and you can bounce it once and solo it if you like. You put it in the net for 3 points, and you put it over the bar for a point. Is basically all you need to know about it, really, to be honest. But yeah, it's a really Irish game. It's ingrained in us. It's a national sport over here. It's our biggest sport over in Ireland, and it's you play it from an early age, school, when you're in school, and it's really is big. But as I say, Jack Charlton had come over and educate us to a degree along the lines of the football, and he gave us he gave us 10, 12 great years. So the popularity, I would say now, football would probably be number one sport in Ireland, but back in my day, it was only Gaelic football.
I think for England fans, French fans, German fans, we're all quite spoilt for choice where we're constantly in these big tournaments. But as an Irishman yourself, when you're in these tournaments, every so often, because unfortunately you're not always in them, how are you feeling compared to the spoilt Brits, English players and people like that who are constantly being given this amazing international football?
Oh, Jamie, you've no idea what happens to the country. You've no idea what happens to our country. And I wouldn't be able to do a service by explaining to you. The flags go out the windows, the cars, everything just goes green, white and orange for the full month. It's like as if the country just stops. It shuts down. I was lucky enough to go over to the USA in '94, following Ireland when we played in the World Cup. But for Euro 88, it was our first ever international tournament. We played England in our first game. The build up to it, the emotions running into it, it was just unbelievable. It's something I'm so glad I lived through it and I experienced it. Yes, you're quite rightly, all these nations who quite regularly qualify for tournaments, they probably won't know where I'm coming from or what I'm thinking or what I'm saying because they qualify on a regular basis. But for us to qualify for our first tournament, it was absolutely unbelievable. And then we followed it up in 1990, Italia 1990. We got to the quarterfinals. And those were they were some of the best times of my life, in my football and life, just following Ireland and just seeing our lads in green go across and represent the country so well. Unfortunately, nowadays it doesn't happen that often. We qualify, so yeah, we do tend to make the most of it when we get there, you know.
As a teenager, you were playing for Cherry Orchard FC, which obviously is an Irish team. This is the first introduction you had into proper football. What was that like to play for Cherry Orchard? Because obviously it followed a whole host of brilliant clubs such as Blackburn and Swindon after.
Yeah, look, it was brilliant. And them days, you just got on, you just kicked the ball, and you had a bit of fun. It was like you don't take the game too serious. It was a hobby. Sport which I grew into and I enjoyed and I loved, and obviously it's paved a great life career for myself. But yeah, it was never something that you think of or never something that you put too much attention to. I was just a young lad running around playing football. It was a very well-run club, an institutionalised that they were not professionally run. That's probably wrong, but they've done things as professional as they possibly could. Now we used to train at the back of the supermarkets on the concrete floor or in a car park where when the cars would leave offices, we'd get the balls out and the jumpers for goalposts. So there was, it was a brilliant time. It was brilliant growing up, brilliant experience. You know, a lot of good friends, a lot of good people who I still keep in contact with as well from those days. But it's Cherry Orchard, probably widely known in Ireland as one of the best schoolboy teams in Dublin, and I certainly vouch for that as well. It was a special time, you know, just like any other young teenager, young child growing up. We're probably all the same. We just love the game and run around and give it our all. So it was great times. Jesus, some great memories you're bringing me back to here, Jamie.
Well, I hope that you unravel all of these memories as we go through. But when you were at Cherry Orchard, obviously there may have been complacency, and I see it quite regularly now with maybe 13, 14-year-old lads at Crystal Palace or Tottenham or Arsenal. And I get the level of the clubs maybe a tad bit different. However, there is complacency that could creep in, that they already could be this professional footballer quite easily. For you, for other lads in the team, was complacency ever a thing?
No, it's probably our country, our environment, probably where we were from, probably the parentage. There's a lot of factors there that I've mentioned, but no, there was never anything. And I'm not 100% sure going across to England was ever on our mind. To be quite honest, that only become a thing later on. That only grew later on in life. But when you were a young kid, you were all about enjoying yourself. You were all about running around and things like that. I look at some of the kids now with the hairbands and the colour boots and things like that. There was none of that in my time. I have to say, none of that in my time. We had black, I think, Puma Kings and World Cup boots, and they were the only boots you had. There was no complacency whatsoever. No, there was always possibly the older you got, a little bit of a dream. Could you get across the water to England and forge a career for yourself? There was always that burning away. And if you wanted it badly enough, you would have the coaching, you would have the facility, and you probably certainly have the football club in Cherry Orchard to help you try and achieve that. But it was nothing really ever thought about that when you're 9, 10, 11, 12. It's only when you get a little bit older, 14, 15, you start thinking along them lines. And you get a little bit of recognition early doors. I was captain of the Dublin Schoolboy Leagues, and I played with Leinster and got called up to the Irish under-15s. And when things like that start happening to you, then I think you start to realise and you start, maybe I can do something, or maybe I can push myself. And you maybe take the game a little bit more serious when you get a little bit of recognition.
You're obviously a centre-back for the majority of your professional career. When you were at Cherry Orchard, when you were playing for the under-15 Irish side, were you always a centre-back, or was there some position that you were playing before?
Well, I played centre forward up until I was probably around under 14s, under 13s, 14s, something like that. I played centre forward throughout the early part of my career, I don't know how I ended up back at centre half. I don't know why I ended up back there. I was just put in there one day and I stuck and I stayed there. And then as my career went on, then probably I went out to Bray. Bray Wanderers signed me as a centre midfielder. I was playing in centre midfield, so I was always probably fit. I could get around the park. I could run. I wasn't a bad athlete. I had a little bit of pace back then. So yeah, I could go in and play in a couple of positions. I'd had a little spell at right back as well. So I don't know. I just guess I was okay in all those positions.
You were at Bray Wanderers next, as you just mentioned, the League of Ireland side. So again, it's a big step up from Cherry Orchard without putting the disrespect onto their name. You played 11 games for Bray Wanderers. So when you signed for Bray, what was the feeling like? Because there may have been an idea that you probably wouldn't have gone pro. There may have been an idea that you could have gone pro. But now you're getting this idea that being a pro is a possibility.
Well, I'd had a couple of little offers from Brian Kerr, who was at St. Pat's at the time. I'd been over to Crystal Palace. I'd been over to Oldham on a couple of trial games on several occasions. Not quite worked out. So you're probably right. Yeah, I'm probably getting the feeling in my waters, the feeling in my stomach that, go on, can I forge out a career here? Can I do something with my life so far as football is concerned? So yeah, going into the League of Ireland was a big jump from the Leinster Senior League with Cherry Orchard. It was an education, but I didn't play long. As you quite rightly say, I must have only played, I think it was 11. You say 11, yeah, something around that 15. I always thought it was 15 games, but yeah, I was only there a short while. Kenny Dalglish was at one of our games, and he came up to us and asked us, would I come over to Blackburn? And I'm like, yeah, right, the lads are having me here. The lads are winding me up. He's going to get a wind up, And I didn't for once take it seriously until it was put to me, and the flights were booked, and I was actually on the flight coming over. It wasn't until then that you started to realise, Jesus, they're not winding me up. He is serious. So I'd come over on a trial probably for a week, and then I'd come back over for another 2 weeks, played a couple of games, and then all of a sudden, then it was put pen to paper, and the rest is history, as they say.
Well, I mean, Blackburn at the time were probably a bit better than us, I'd say. They were competing for Champions League, so they were definitely a bit better than them. They were, of course, dominating English football as well. And they didn't just sign you for free. They signed you for 150k, which, of course, is a huge amount of money back then, and even in these days for a 21-year-old unproven talent from Ireland. And, of course, Ray Harvard brought you over. So what was that like to be recognised by Kenny Dalglish, Ray Harvard, and 150k?
Well, look, as you say, it was unbelievable, really, and unbelievable. I don't know. I suppose you just, is this really happening to me? When do I pinch myself? When do I wake up? Is this for real? It was kind of around them. Because don't forget, Blackburn were the Premier League champions at the time. They just won the Premier League in 95. And, the likes of the Shearers, the Suttons, the Shay Givens, you're going into training to work with them every day of the week. It was just unbelievable. It was for a young lad, and as I say, from where I've come from, off the Gaelic fields, out of the boxing gym, and off the streets of Dublin, just to kicking a ball around, to all of a sudden going across there and mixing with those type of players and those type of people. It was surreal. Yeah, it was surreal. It was kind of pinch me every day. I like pinching myself. I wish I knew now what back then, or what type of experience I have now. If I had had a little bit more of that back then, I should have pushed myself more. I should have. I suppose every young lad is probably the same. I didn't know too much about the professional life. I didn't know too much about the trappings and the what football could actually give to you. You learn it as you go, but I wish I had a little bit more savvy or a little bit more nous surrounding football when I came over to England. Because I probably would have pushed myself a little bit harder, a little bit more. It wasn't until a couple of seasons later that you start to realise, oh, Jesus, the career for me here, I got a 4-year deal as well, which was a 4-year contract, which was probably the worst thing you could give me. Keep me hungry, keep me keen, keep me weekly, monthly or yearly, but don't 4 years. So yeah, I didn't do myself just. To be fair, I fell into one or two little trappings, one or two. I thought I was coming over to actually play in the first team. How daft was that? Because that's all I'd known all my life, playing in first team football. So yeah, I was a little bit was caught out, if for want of a better expression. I was caught out by the English football, by the game, and by the professionalism, by the standards of the game.
I think now there's a lot more support for these young players that are coming through, but I think the pressure is higher than ever with players, like I said before, coming through the ranks 3, 4, 5. I think Phil Foden was one of those players that is 1% of the 1% that actually make it into the professional game. But Blackburn were a huge club at the time. For people now that see Blackburn in the Championship, they're not doing too well. Blackburn were a huge club, Champions League winners, dominating in English football. And the complacency for other lads in the squad may have been really, really high. So it could have been a brilliant time to slip into those ranks. But when you were at Blackburn, what were your parents telling you? Because obviously you've just admitted to me that looking down later, you didn't try as hard. Did your parents recognise that, or was it just something to look back on?
Obviously, I was away from my parents. My parents were in Dublin, and I was over here. So yeah, there was a load. I wouldn't say I didn't try hard. I just didn't understand or get the grasp what professionalism and what standards it took and what was needed to actually break in or to push yourself. I just didn't. I don't know. And I suppose nowadays when you go into football clubs, and I've seen it for myself when you go into clubs now, there's so many people around and about to look after you and to make sure you're sorted. I come over here and I don't know. I can remember taking driving lessons. I can remember trying to get a flat in accommodation, so roof over my head. I didn't know the first thing about bills. I didn't know the first thing about paying for gas, electricity, and booking driving lessons. I didn't know anything really. I was just on my own. It was like as if you were just chucked into out of the fire into the frying pan. But yeah, it was. I didn't have parents. I didn't have a support network. My mum and dad were back in Dublin. My brothers was back in Dublin. My mates, they were all back in Dublin as well. So yeah, it was lonely. Don't get me wrong, it was lonely, and you always crave to go back. And every chance I got, I would jump on the plane and go back to visit. And that was probably the worst thing to do. I should have maybe bit down on the gum shield a little bit and stayed more often. But I went home far too often. I'd go home in the summer as well and spend me 6 weeks. I'd have 6 weeks at home in Dublin. So without doing much training during the off season either. And that's a no-no. So yeah, listen, I know where I let myself down at times. But as my career went on, I got that education. I started to learn and wise up a little bit. And I suppose it's when you get a taste of first team football first. Your first game, I made my debut for Swindon. I think it was in 1996, something like that. And I think when you get the taste of first team football, you say, "Oh, I want a little bit more of this now. How can I get a little bit more of it? How do I do that?" And I think that's when you realise, or that's when you take off. Because I think I was in a little bit of a fantasy, a little bit of a fairyland. I think I was in a little bit of a whirlwind that I just did not realise the opportunities and the chances that were there and how hard you had to work to get them.
You obviously mentioned Swindon Town. They came after a loan move from Blackburn Rovers, who maybe were looking to try and get the potential out of you that they weren't quite getting at Blackburn. Before we go into the actual time that happened there, it's been deemed chaos by some reports. First team debut for Swindon. What was the feelings, emotions, everything in between?
Well, probably chaos would be the right word. I'd left a club that was Premier League champions, organised, structured. They were the most professional club you come across, Blackburn, and that's probably why they were champions. And then I'd gone to Swindon, and all of a sudden we were training. Our training facility wasn't the training facilities was nowhere near what the Blackburn was. It was like school field. It took me back to my schoolboy days, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? How are we at this stage? But Swindon had been in the Premier League as well, and I think it was 93, 94 or something like that. And I was really surprised at what I found. But yeah, it was a club that was going through a tough time. I probably went there too early. I'd only come back. I was only a week back on the training ground after a hernia operation. And I probably went there slightly too early. But I suppose I wanted to play. I wanted to get a taste of it. Blackburn had to obviously get me out and get me some game time. And Swindon needed a centre-half at the time. It was brilliant. Our first game was against, I think it was Norwich. It was either Norwich or Ipswich. And Norwich, they were up top of the league. The two of them were actually top of the league. They were fighting it out, Norwich and Ipswich. And it was the standard, the speed, the pace, the atmosphere in the ground. There was a full house. All of those things really probably caught me out. If the truth be known, I didn't understand what what it was or what it was like to play in front of a big crowd. And you know, it always it was quick, and that's probably the one thing that stands out: the pace of the game. So I had to get up to the pace of the game pretty quickly, and you know, it was brilliant education. Such a young lad to make you. It was the championship. Equivalent to the championship now. It was the old division, was it Division 1 or Division 2 back then? I don't know, but equivalent to the championship now. So yeah, it was a decent standard. Robert Fleck, Brady, people like that. You know, we played Ipswich. I think Mark Stewart was playing for Ipswich. These were all Premier League players. These were all top players. And just to go up against them and compete against them, it gave me a great education. But yeah, if you know, so it wasn't a great time for Swindon at the time. So. I probably got caught up in all that as well.
For Swindon, though, the league started quite well. In October, you were top of the First Division, which is the equivalent of the Championship. After a 4-1 loss to Oxford, you only won 3 out of the remaining 26 games. So unfortunately, for any club in any division, that is just not going to keep you up or even survive in any sort of division. Obviously, you didn't play too many games. I think 3 was the amount that you played. But you were in and around that team that was losing and getting the odd win here and there. What is it like to be in that atmosphere? Because the manager was under huge threat to be resigning, Steve McMahon, and obviously the chairman, Ricky Hunt, refused to sack him. And as a young player like yourself, to be exposed to this so early on, what are you feeling?
Yeah. Oh, God, that was a while back now, so forgive me if I leave some bits and pieces out, Jesus. I suppose you're feeling a little bit, you know, you've been brought in here to do a job and the manager's trusted you and we can't win a game, so am I letting them down? You know, and I don't like letting people down. I always try to do my best, and you always try to give your all, you know, the usual bits and pieces. But there was other senior lads, some of the senior lads in the change room, and everybody. I think it was just one of those occasions, one of those times where no matter what we tried, everything would just go against us, whether it be a refereeing decision, a bit of luck, or an injury or a suspension. I can always remember, no matter what we tried, it wasn't for try. I want to try, and the lads were working their socks off. They work really hard, and again, you know, I keep saying this, and I don't care who you are or what you are. You need an element of luck to succeed in football or to win in football, and we just weren't getting any breaks. We weren't getting any luck, and there was just nothing coming our way. And I suppose confidence eroded, the atmosphere, the self-belief. You know, it all started to change and ebbed out of us. And Steve McMahon, he worked his socks off to try and turn it around. And so I wasn't aware of the resignation or the chairman. That situation, again, you just live in your own bubble. But yeah, I would probably say fair shout on the chairman not to sack him, because he was working his socks off, to be fair. And if anybody could have turned it, it would have been Steve McMahon, to be fair.
I don't want to mention any more negative games, but unfortunately there was a loss to Stevenage, who are currently at non-league at that point. Now they're playing in League One, but of course it's been a big step up for them in recent years. But when you were playing or on the team in the substitutes bench against a side like Stevenage, when you were dominating, when you were trying to dominate in the league that you were in, and you've now lost to a team so many divisions below, again, what happens in a changing room after such a heavy blow and a heavy defeat?
I suppose it's like every other changing room. If you get knocked out of a cup competition, or if a team lower down beats you, you know, you're thinking, well, this is rock bottom. How low can we go? Or how do we change? How do we dig ourselves out of this? And you look to your characters, you look to your leaders, you look to your skippers, you look to the experienced men in the changing room, also the managers, the gaffers, the coaches. So you probably call upon all the experience and muster up as much as you can. The one thing you can't do is go under, is wave a white flag, and because that's the last thing you can do. But yeah, I'd imagine it wasn't a nice time at that stage. I'd imagine it becomes every man for himself. The team ethic, the togetherness, that type of confidence, the self-belief. I'm imagining all that would have been seeping away and dripping away. And yeah, you're quite right. It's never a nice dressing room, never a nice place, or never a nice club to be at when you lose to a team that's probably an underdog, or probably no. They shouldn't be beating you, really. So yeah, it's again, I can't off the top of my mind. It was I met it 20 odd years ago, so 25 years ago maybe. So. I'm probably leaving lots out. There was probably punch-ups in the changing room. There was probably fights. There was things being chucked around. So, yeah, it was. I'm trying to be diplomatic and nice, really, to be honest.
Livingston came up next, another loan for Blackburn, and now this is 2 back-to-back loans. Before we talk about the time at Livingston, for that exact moment, or can you think of a moment as when you've been a manager, when you've got to sit down with the player and tell them you haven't been quite good enough to fit into our team after your loan spell, we're going to want you to go out on loan again?
I as a manager, as a coach, I've probably been in that situation many a time. Yeah, I've probably sat down with players many a time, and because I'm a big believer, and I probably was back then. If I've gone out again on loan, I'm a big believer of once you get a taste of first team football, you want to keep playing. You don't want to go back into training, or you don't want to go back into reserves, or you don't want to go back into not playing. So yeah, I was probably a big one, and I think I pushed that one myself. When I was going back to Blackburn, if I wasn't going to play in Blackburn's first team, I just wanted to play first team football. And I kind of do that. I kind of do that now with the lads, the players who I manage. If they're not playing, obviously you have to play regular. You're soon forgotten. You soon lose your edge. You lose your sharpness. And you could real easily slip down the ladder and the pecking order in football, because football waits for no man, you can't stand still. So yeah, I always try and encourage lads who don't play or don't look like they're going to play. I always try and encourage them to go out on loan and get some game time under their belt, because you can't beat the feeling. You can't beat a feeling of walking at 3 o'clock on a Saturday game of football. And it doesn't matter what level. Players will tell you that all levels, it does not matter. 3 o'clock on a Saturday playing first team football, you can't beat that feeling. So I've had that feeling, so now I want to carry on. Didn't look like I was going to play. Yeah, I was on the bench a couple of times and things like that, but I wasn't getting on the pitch. I didn't manage to play in the Premier League. So I thought to myself, yeah, listen, to continue my development, to continue my playing, because I've played all along at Cherry Orchard, I've played all along at Bray Wanderers, and I didn't want to go back to not playing. Again, it's what we love. So yeah, I pursued a loan move to Livingston. It was actually Ray Stewart was the manager, and he'd phone me up and asked me would I come up. So it was, I think he knew Kenny Dalglish, Kevin Gallagher, so Colin Hendry. Yeah, I think there was a Scottish connection there somewhere. And anyway, so they asked would I go up, and I said yeah, no problem. So we went up to Livingston, and it was brilliant. I loved it. We won the league. We won League Two, and then we won League One the year after. We got into the SPL. So it was a brilliant 2 years up there. Really, 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 really good, to be fair. And I was glad I'd done it. And I don't know, I ended up with a handful of games as well under my belt up there. So that was probably the making of me. And that was probably the experience I needed to be chucked in at the deep end, to be playing regular, to be playing each week. And I probably look back on that time, and that's probably the time that's, I don't know, would have kick-started me, or would have got me going, got my juices flowing. And first team football, a regular run in a first team, and that was at Livingston, which I think that helped the rest of my career.
So the first time you went on loan to Livingston, you won the league, and then you went there on a permanent deal, played 50 games, scored 2 goals in the next 2 seasons that you had there. In the first season of those 2, you managed to get to the semi-final of the Challenger Cup. You lost 1-0 to Iverness, and you started the season under Ray Stewart. On the 15th of March 2000, Jim Leisham was reappointed as the manager. So again, a change in manager, something that you're becoming pretty used to by now.
Yeah, it was never nice. It's never nice when constant changing. You can't get that continuity, and continuity brings confidence, and it's never nice when you can't get a run or a little bit of continuity and there's changes. One thing I've learned about football, and it was political, the things happen in football that sometimes are political, sometimes there's no explaining why. Ray Stewart being sacked was something I just, to this day, I still couldn't work out. But hey ho, I was only a young lad trying to make my way in my career. But yeah, there's certain things that happen at times in football, and they're unexplainable and they're not nice. And that was probably one of the times that I didn't like when the manager was sacked, was moved on, because it wasn't for footballing reasons. And he'd done nothing wrong. So yeah, it wasn't if I recall correctly, it wasn't a great mood around the camp. I think the fans, he had an affiliation with the fans as well, having got us promoted as well. So yeah, it's all those emotions that you go through, and all those turmoil, all those turbulent times you go through. It's I suppose it sets you up well for when you go into your own coaching or your own management career.
That was quite late into the season. The former manager, Ray Stewart, got sacked on the 15th of March. So you had the whole summer to work for the new season, which obviously you went on to go and win the first division, and you managed to become finalists of the Challenger Cup, losing 3-2 on penalties. Do you remember that game, the shootout, where you obviously lost that game?
Yeah, I think it was it at Airdrie's? I think it was Airdrie.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it was Broadwood. Was it? Yeah, I remember it. I remember the dressing room after it, really, to be honest, because it was the first time I'd been in a dressing room, obviously, that was really, really somber, or first time I'd lost a final, if that be correct. We lost on penalties. I didn't take one. Yeah, I can remember the dressing room. I remember coming in after the game, lads' heads down and the somber mood in the changing room. And it was that taste that I think that pushed us on then the following season. We didn't want to taste it again. We didn't want to feel it again. We wanted to be winners. We wanted to be successful. Having had a league title under our belt already, the feeling, that chalk and cheese, the emotions and the feelings that you go through. So, yeah, it was a very somber dressing room. A lot of heads down, a lot of how, why, a lot of questions being asked. But I can remember coming out of that, and I think as a dressing room, I think nobody said anything really, but I think we all just looked each other in the eyes, and I think we all had the same feeling. We don't want this again. We want to be successful. We want to win. And I think that defeat drove us on and pushed us to win the Division 1 title, got us into the SPL. I think that played a big, big part in us being so successful and getting promoted into the SPL, if that makes sense.
But obviously your time wrapped up at Livingston in Scotland. You got used to the time in England after 2 seasons, moved up to Scotland for 2 or 3 seasons. I think it was about 3, it was 2 and a bit. And then obviously Plymouth Argyle came calling, and you managed to spend 5 years at the club. But when you were leaving Livingston, a team that you were probably settling down into, maybe not expecting to leave, what was that transition period like to now come back to England?
Well, it was actually Paul Sturrock. I'd gone and met Paul Sturrock up in was it St Johnstone somewhere in Perth. I just met him because he was Dundee and I was Livingston. I was staying in Dalgety Bay, so I met him in Perth. I remember sitting down in the hotel and I was just absolutely flabbergasted by some of the stories, the man, the personality, some of the things he was talking about. And then when we started talking about football, come up and meet us, have a half an hour's chat. I'm looking at my watch and it's about 4 hours later. And we're still chatting, talking about football and things like that. And then he says to me, he gets up and he left the table. He was gone or whatever. And then he waves through a window as he's getting into his car. And I'm thinking, well, he's not shook my hand. He's not said goodbye. And then the lady comes over and she asked me to pay the bill for the tea and the sandwiches. And I've gone, oh my God, I've just been stitched up here. But normally if a manager wants to sign you, he's going to throw the cups of tea at you and the sandwiches at you and pay for every. But Paul Sturrock, he was just unique. He was just different. And I can't believe he stitched me up for over tea and sandwiches. And he always says to me, even to this day, I knew you'd come looking for your money. He says, that was the only way I was going to get you down to Plymouth. So, well, I suppose my missus was from England as well. So she'd come up to Scotland with me. And she was pregnant. So we needed to probably get back down to England. I don't know, but I think Paul Sturrock would have played a big, big part in attracting me to Plymouth. Just his personality, just his character, and I'll never ever forget. He stitched me up for sandwiches and a cup of tea. He was brilliant man.
Before we dive into a few of the seasons that you had there, because you won a few more titles at your time at Plymouth, you were the PFA Division 3 Team of the Year in 2001-2002. You played a key role in Plymouth's championship winning team, and you were voted for the club's best player in 2002. So in those 3 categories alone, how proud were you at the time to be awarded all of these achievements?
Yeah, I was over the moon, really, to be fair, and never mind the football side of things. I'd had my first child as well, Shannon. In 2002, that was January 2002. That was my first baby. So life at that time was just unbelievable. It was just one of those. I suppose everybody will understand when you go through a purple patch or you go through a patch in your life where everything is just brilliant, everything is rosy, everything just comes together, and we always get one of those patches as we go through life. And that was probably mine. Yeah, everything just come together for me, and it was an unbelievable period for myself and for my missus as well. With the birth of my baby, but I don't know. I used to just run from one end of the pitch to the other, and the ball would hit me, or hit me on the head or the back of the head. I wouldn't even be looking, and the second thing would go in the back of the net. I don't know. I just can't explain it to you. Yes, the delivery set pieces were always spot on, and the players in the change room. It was a great dressing room. There was some good players, good lads. But I was really, really fortunate for a couple of seasons down at Plymouth. Everything just came off from me. Again, I don't know whether it's the camaraderie or the working relationship I had with Paul Sturrock, the understanding that we had. There might be a lot of variables, a lot of reasons why, but it was probably the best period that I've had in my football career. And we quickly went from basement in League Two to, I think we were 11th or something. We finished 9th or 11th in the Championship. So it was a hell of a rise, and it was a hell of a journey to go on, to be honest.
The first season you were there, you won the equivalent of League Two, the Division 3 title in 2001-2002. You were a pivotal role in the backline for Plymouth Argyle, 102 points, only 28 goals conceded. So how dominant can a team be in a league? Because we see it these days, I think a bit more rarely with the players and teams getting more sponsorships and finances. How can a team be so dominant in a season?
I use these two words. These two words are key for me, and I've always brought them with me. We character and resilience, and we had that in abundance. If you wanted to fight us, we'd fight you. If you wanted to play us, we'd play you. There was nobody fitter than us. We were one of the fittest teams in the land. We kept 28 clean sheets from 46 games. 28 clean sheets. That was an unbelievable stat. I ended up being top goal scorer that year with 12 goals in the Championship, and that was an unbelievable stat as well. But we had some good lads. We had a top manager who was probably, in my eyes, a genius. In Paul Sturrock, he was an absolute genius. Kevin Summerfield, his assistant, and John Blackley, they were really, really good coaches as well. And we worked hard. Now, if we weren't successful on a Saturday, or things didn't go right on a Saturday, Paul Sturrock could just walk up with the ball in his hand on a Monday morning, and he'd just chuck it onto the pitch. And it was more the ball. We would absolutely knock lumps out of each other on the training ground for an hour. And then that was it out of our system. We were ready then to go into the next game. But yeah, we had, I go character, I go resilience. We had some good characters. We were very, very resilient. We were hard to beat. We could do anything. If you wanted to play us, like I say, we could play, we could run, we could fight. We were a really decent group of lads, to be honest. And the Green Army, the gates, the ground just swelled every week. It was just, the crowds just seemed to get bigger and bigger, and it was a brilliant feeling. It was a brilliant feeling just to put that club back on the map. And the ground as well. I remember the ground being built, the stadium being built. It was knocked down, flattened, and I remember seeing it being built. And as the stages, we got back, the crowd came back in on, I think it was Boxing Day. We played one of the local teams, Torquay or Exeter. And it was 15,000. And then it was finished. The ground was finished just in time for the run-in, probably around February or March. And we opened the full ground, and you were getting 21,000 in. And that's all you could get in. If you could have got 30,000 in, you would have. But you could only get 21,000 in. So that was a big factor in it as well. Playing at home, teams having to travel all the way down to Plymouth, I suppose that would give us a little bit of a psychological advantage. But bear in mind, we had to travel every second weekend as well. So that's why we had to be resilient, and that's why we had to show character and strength and mental strength as well, to be honest. But yeah, it was a real purple patch for the 4 or 5 years down there.
Before we go on and talk about the following seasons that you've had at Plymouth and plenty of other teams, what is the direction that Plymouth are heading in this current season? Because obviously Wayne Rooney's the manager. I think there's been a bit of difficulty at the club. And obviously as a former player and now a fan of the club, where do you see Plymouth heading in the next few seasons?
Well, hopefully up. Hopefully they have a project. They have a way of doing things down in Plymouth, which is probably different to when we were there or when I was there. It's very much a club that has risen over the last 3-4 years. It's come on leaps and bounds. Off the pitch as well. The commercial side of the club as well. Those avenues have been opened up as well. There's a togetherness down in Plymouth that you wouldn't. It's very, very difficult to understand. It's a great club. The fans are passionate. They travel in their numbers, even away from home. You know, the miles, the distance they have to travel. Hopefully, like I say, they'll be on their way up. And do I see them challenging for a Premier League place or a playoff place? No, not yet. I think maybe in a couple of years. Again, that financial backing is important, particularly in the Championship. But I watched them here. I was at the game here the first day of the season, Sheffield Wednesday, when they played here at Hillsborough, and they got beat up 4-0. And I put my head in my hands and I thought, wow, this is going to be a tough season for them. They've just come off the back of a win now against Luton the weekend. So hopefully they can build on that and they can push on. And hopefully in the not too distant future they can start challenging maybe the top 10 and then maybe try and break the top 6. But at this moment in time, this season, I think they'll settle for stability.
Yeah, I think there's definitely potential in the team with some new signings like Sam Whittaker coming in, Premier League experienced in there as well. Let's go ahead and talk about not the following season, the season after. So in that season, from 2002-2003, you managed to stay comfortably in League One. The following season, you won the league once again, Player of the Season again, may I add. 90 points, 7 clear of second place QPR. Another dominant season at the top.
Yeah, I'll never forget the home game against QPR. Actually, I think it's etched in everybody's memory. Every Plymouth Argyle fan, everybody's memory. We played QPR. We're going toe to toe with QPR that season, and we had some great battles with them. Loftus Road, full house. You know, we would take 3,000 fans to London. You know, from Plymouth. It was unbelievable. They pack out behind the goal, and it was a great rivalry with the two clubs. I chucked Luton in there as well because the first season we had a great rivalry with Luton, and then obviously down our rivals then was QPR that year. We went head to head with them. I think it was the second last or the third last game, game 43, I think it was. We played them at home park. It was winner takes all really, and we beat them 2-0 at home park. The scenes that day, the crowd, just to go and win, beat your nearest rivals. Win 2-0, home win, clean sheet, to pinch the league. Well, I won't say pinch it. That's we won the league deservedly. Again, it was unbelievable. The scenes, the feeling, the emotions that you go through. It was an unbelievable day. And I think every time you speak to Argyle fans now, they always remember that day. And it's one of those. Where were you? And where everybody remembers where they were on that day. If you were in the stand in the ground, you knew where you were sitting. If you weren't and you were watching at home or you were, you know, everybody knew exactly where they were. And there was, you know, there was tickets going outside the ground. Now, I don't know what a ticket was back then, 20 quid maybe, but there was tickets going for 100 quid, £100, and that was a lot of money back then. But you just couldn't get enough people into the ground. We just couldn't get enough space, enough tickets for people. Everybody wanted to go. And I do think, when we won it, there was 2,000 fans outside the ground as well. I remember just sampling the atmosphere, and then we went on an open top bus trip that at the end of that season down Royal Parade in Plymouth, and I've never ever seen that like it. There must have been 60,000, 70,000 people out welcoming us, and the weather was always nice as well down there, so that added a little bit of flavour to things as well. But it was an unbelievable. I had a brilliant time down there. I loved every minute of it, to be honest.
The promotion to the Championship 2004-2005 season, your time as a footballer at this point is really starting to take off. For the first time in 12 years, you were promoted to the English second tier. However, on the 24th of August 2004, the team have lost the 12th year in a row. They were knocked out of the League Cup at the first round. Do you remember the time where that's happened? Because obviously, you're not thinking about that in the 10th or 9th year. But when you reach the 12th year, and that's getting publicised in the papers and in the media, to be knocked out in the Carabao Cup now in the first round for 12 years in a row, as such a dominant team that you are, what was going through everyone's minds?
I can't recall who it was knocked us out, or I can't recall having too many memories of cup competitions with Plymouth. I don't think we were a cup team. I don't think we were built for the cup, and I don't think cup football was our priority. I always think we prioritised, and I always think the manager prioritised the league. He was a big advocate of this is where we'll be judged. We won't be judged on cup football. We'll be judged on league football, our position in the league. He was tasked with getting the club promoted, getting the club into the Championship. That was his remit. His remit certainly wasn't to bring a League Cup or an FA Cup to home park. We were probably never going to win a cup, so there was certainly logic behind his thought process. But yeah, I can't now. If I'd be telling a lie if I could recall who knocked us out or the feelings around cup football. I never had any great emotions towards cup football. It was always league. It was always the bread and butter, and hence, the success we've had in the league over the 4 or 5 years was immense. So I can never recall prioritising cup football, to be quite honest with you. Not at all. I'd be lying if I said otherwise.
The rise to the Championship is one that possibly Ipswich fans could be quite similar to, because in the Championship they've got promoted and they were just surviving relegation. However, Ipswich managed to do just a bit better than that. When Bobby Williamson was appointed, it took him 130 days to lose, which is quite something for Plymouth Argyle, who were probably looking to be one of the favourites to get relegated, until a 3-1 loss to Watford. So you've got 130 days unbeaten in a league that really shouldn't be happening to you.
Yeah, we like I said, we're a good group of lads. I don't know where we finished that season, our first year in the Championship, but we were tipped to go down. Obviously, we wouldn't survive and we wouldn't be able to do that. But anybody who ever tipped their dressing room or our club or a group of lads to go down, they didn't know very much about us. If they were going to be tipping us to go down, the character again, the resilience was unbelievable at the football club, and that was ingrained in us. There was no way we were ever going to go down. No way. But yeah, we were tipped to go down. We done really well that season as well, if I can recall, if I recall rightly. And to keep the club in the Championship was brilliant. And I'm not sure, people with better memory than myself might be able to tell you, I'm not sure, but there was a stage where it was talking of playoffs, there was talking of maybe breaking the top 10 or breaking the top 6 or something like that. I'm nearly certain there was. But to survive and to stay in the Championship was another brilliant achievement. We should never have been anywhere near that. We had no divine right. But like I say, the character and the resilience that dressing room showed over those years was there in abundance.
One of the crucial goals that you scored in that season, you only scored a few, but one of the most important ones was a 3-2 win over Nottingham Forest, where you scored, I believe it could have been a header. Do you remember that game?
I remember getting a black eye. Yeah, I remember I got booted right in the head, right in me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether I was falling or I was stumbling, but I just put my head on the ball, and I went in. And I remember, I can't remember who. Gareth Evans smashed me right in the thing. But we got a goal, we won, and anyway, and yeah, I remember Andy Reid played. Andy Reid played as well, a good lad as well, Irish lad. Yeah, I think we won 3-2 at home. And if I'm not wrong, I think that was a bank holiday Monday.
That's quite a cool fact to have, I suppose, isn't it? So, when you were at Plymouth Argyle, you decided to leave them for an undisclosed fee to reunite with former manager Paul Sturrock, and you managed to get the captaincy after Lee Bullen's injury. You joined Sheffield Wednesday for 2 seasons. Why and how did you manage to get the move away from Argyle? And what was the feelings like leaving a club you were so used to being at?
Oh, I was good. But I didn't know, but the then manager, Bobby Williamson, and one of the directors had worked a deal with Bristol City. And I wasn't aware of this. They were getting a fee. So, look, whether they were asset stripping, I don't know. Whether they were trying to bring some money in, I don't know. I don't know the reasons behind what they were doing, but Bristol City phoned me up and asked me would I come up and meet them. And I said, well, you need to speak to the club first, Plymouth. You need to speak to the club and ask for permission. They said, no, they've contacted us. We've agreed a fee. The ball is in your court now. So I've gone in, obviously, to see the manager, and I just said, what's going on here? So I think if the money's on the table and that, and he's under pressure from upstairs, and there was a load of nonsense. I didn't know who to believe and what to believe and what I was hearing, and I just said, well, look, there won't be any fee. If you want me to move on, the fee will go in my pocket, not yours. So I says, I'll decide, and I'll be on my terms. What I've done, because I've had 5 great years here, and I'm not waiting on you just to come through the door and push me. But the season before that, he'd actually phoned me up when I was in the airport, going away with my missus and kid. He phoned me up and told me he was bringing a player in to take me place or something. And I says, well, let's have it. And I still played 46 games the following season. And he was bringing Taribo West, I think, to the football club. He was telling me he was bringing Taribo West in to replace me. And I said, well, you've tried this last year. I said, and it hasn't worked for you. So I said, we'll have to have an unbelievable season in the Championship, and you're going to... I said, no problem. I said, I won't be going anywhere. But it was when the club then decided that they wanted me to go, they wanted to take the money. I just got that feeling of, well, I best go, otherwise it could turn messy. And then obviously Paul Sturrock was sitting in the wings, waiting in the background. He just left Southampton. It brings me up to, there was one of them stories. You go into Sheffield Wednesday and you've got a figure in your head, a signing on or a wage, and they put something in front of you, and it's one of them pinchy moments. You're kind of going, well, let me take this out of the room and I'll have a little chat and I'll go on the phone and things like that. And you come out of the room and you go, yes, get in. Couldn't believe what they were putting in front of you. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things. But yeah, look, for me, it was always about football, and to go from 20,000 fans to 30,000 fans or 40,000 fans at Wednesday, you know, it was a natural progression. The size of the club. I'd been to Cardiff to watch them in the playoffs against Hartlepool. Paul Sturrock had just got them promoted. It was championship football as well. My kids weren't in school yet. My missus was pregnant with her second baby, Kane. It was now or never, you know. So as soon as Argyle maybe probably didn't want you or didn't see any use in you, it was one of those. Yeah, shake hands. It was emotional though. I didn't want to leave. I liked Plymouth. I liked the place. I'd set up a business, and you know, I'd met some really good people. I had some great years. I mean, Mrs. again she was pregnant, obviously, so the timing wasn't great. But yeah, like I say, I was going to, if I was going, it was on my terms, and I would be the one that would be gaining, not them, financially. So there was a little bit of work to do around that and organising and sorting out. But the club approached Bristol Rovers behind my back, which kind of it's not the way I'm built. I'm open and honest. At times I'm daft. I just come out and say it, and I shouldn't. But yeah, I didn't appreciate the club going behind my back to Bristol City and organising deals behind my back without asking me or without informing me.
I mean, in early April of 2006, you won the Player of the Year for the 5th time. So now this isn't once, twice, it's 5 times that you've been recognised as the best player in the club. And of course, it was your first time at Sheffield Wednesday for the first season. However, in March of 2007, you were allowed to leave after the death of your brother, and you missed 5 games. And then it kind of went downhill there because the boss, Brian Laws, treated you quite poorly. You had to train with youth players. You asked for a loan move, and everything kind of kicked off. So if you wouldn't mind talking about that and how it kind of went from a really high peak and then all of a sudden come back down really quickly.
I suppose, look, I was lifeless. I was, the stuff had been knocked down me. Look, if I'm being honest, I probably didn't even want to be here. I didn't even want to carry on with life. It was a tough time for me and my family and things like that. So yeah, it wasn't a nice time. It was a tough period. It was bad, really, to be honest.
And Brian Laws, I mean, we don't want to talk about this in too much depth, but obviously to be treated so poorly by the football club, to then come back in return, to then be asked to train with the youth players, do you think that you were treated quite poorly and quite disrespectfully by the club and by the manager?
Yeah. I don't think anybody should have been treated like that.
Was there ever any sort of conversation that you had with the manager? Were you allowed to talk to the manager about this and ask him what was kind of going on?
Oh, look, I've said this before. Brian Laws thought I went, you know, he lost 1 or 2 of the games. I wasn't there for the five games, I think it was. I can't even mind. And he'd lost a few of the games, and it was like as if it was my fault. He needed me and he wanted me on the pitch and all that. And like I said, I had nothing to give. I couldn't even get myself off the floor. I couldn't even hold a cup of tea in my hand. I was just, like I say, and I didn't know how I was going to get through life, never mind bloody football or anything. And football was the last thing on my mind. But yeah, listen, it wasn't nice. I don't really think about it or go over it or speak about it, really, to be honest. It's just these things happen in football. He had a view, he had an opinion, and he's the manager at the end of the day, and he was entitled to make whatever moves he wanted to make. He made them, which I don't think any human being should have been treated the way to treat. Steve Cottrell rang me up. He was the then Burnley manager. And he just said to me, "What's going on over there?" And I just said, "Well, look, I don't think I'll ever play with this guy again." I said, "I don't think I could. I don't think I would." If the truth be known, if I'm being honest, I did, my brothers, my dad, my pals, I had to restrain them. They were really, really we were all really, really angry at the time. Not only with what's happened to us personally, but as a family, but then to be treated like that. So yeah, look, Steve Cottrell just rang me up. He says, "Well, bring yourself over here, come over here." And he said, "Look, even if it's not to play," he says, just marshal me dressing room at Burnley. So he just took me out. He says, "Get out of the firing line, get out of Sheffield, and get across here to Burnley, and we'll put an arm around you and look after you. I've got enough defenders," he says, "but I don't have enough Graham Coughlan, I don't have enough marshals, I don't have enough captains, I don't have enough leaders." He says, "So even if you just come over and help out around the dressing room without any game." So yeah, if the truth be known, I don't think I was able to play. I don't think I was fit mentally, or maybe, well, I've always been physically fit, but mentally I don't think I was fit enough to be playing football. I don't think I should have been anywhere near the football pitch. But yeah, listen, it was one of those things. Life. It was one of those things in life that happens, and you just have to get on with things.
You've spoken about your time at Burnley, and I want to try and get everything into here quite quickly. So Rotherham, 2007-2008, 45 games, 65 points, and 9th in League Two. So this is your proper return to football after what happened previously. On the 4th of July, you went back to Wednesday. They released you, and of course you weren't needed. And of course, on the 13th on July, you signed for Rotherham. The debut was a 0-0 draw against Hereford in a crucial 2007-2008 season. And there was one goal in that season with a 1-1 draw with Brentford. So what would you say your time was like at Rotherham, who are now a team competing in League One?
We would have got promoted. We would have won the league. I don't know whether we would have won the league. I think we would have got promoted. The club went into administration in February that year. And I remember Mark Robbins pulling me. I was the skipper, and I remember Mark Robbins pulling me and saying, "How am I going to break this to the players?" I says, "Gee whiz," I says, "bloody hell, what does it mean?" He says, "Well, if there's assets we need to sell, we need to bring money in. Can we survive to the end of the season? I don't know." And it was all sorts of, and we were going well, we were going really well. And it was a new team he's put together, and it was an exciting team because he had a lot of experience in that team. Myself being one of the experienced heads, but there was a lot of young lads coming through in the background as well, because him and Alan Neal had worked in the youth academy, or the youth side of things at Rotherham as well. So it was an exciting time, a really exciting time, and it was a good team to watch. And I'm convinced we would have been promoted, but we were robbed obviously in March, and then in February when we went into administration, and then Mark Robbins pulls me in March. He had an offer from Shrewsbury for me, and he just said, "Look, you're going to have to go. We have to generate money from somewhere." I said, "Well, look, I don't want to go because, the lads, I don't want to leave the lads, and a club that's gone into administration, I certainly don't want to be jumping ship and things like that." So he just said to me, "Well, look, if it's not now in March," he says, "it'll probably, if they come back in at the end of the season, the club will need the money to survive." So, I stayed March. We got through that little period, tried to make sure we stayed in the league, and anyway, don't know where we finished, but it was a season that was marred by administration. We should have got promoted if we had been, and if all things were even. I think MK Dons won the league that year, and then I ended up going to Shrewsbury because obviously to ease the financial burden that was on and that was coming down on the football club. And the Roger Milmore was in the middle of redevelopment. The stand, and they didn't never even finish it. It was just. They run out of money, obviously, because of the administration, and the stand was just left derelict. And then they moved out of their ground and moved across the Don Valley, and so it was a real turbulent time for Rotherham as well, to be fair.
You spent 2 seasons at Shrewsbury Town, 78 games in League Two. You signed a 2-year contract for an undisclosed fee, and you scored on your debut in a 4-0 win over Macclesfield Town. So could you go ahead and talk to us through the game, the goal, and of course the clean sheet?
Well, yeah, it was. I remember it was a nice day as well. Debut, Macclesfield, as you just said, 4-0, you score a clean sheet and a goal on your debut. I was made up really, to be fair. Obviously, I was the captain as well at Shrewsbury. So, if you want to tick the box and if you want to make a debut, I suppose that would be the ideal debut. That should be. That should be after. I think we got that season. We got to Wembley as well, didn't we? We got to the final in the playoff.
Yeah,
I think that's my abiding memory of Shrewsbury losing in a playoff final. And as I say, I said this to somebody the weekend. Of all the good things that you do in football, all the success you've had, there's only one memory I have, and that's losing in the playoff final. And I don't know why. I can't dig into my memory bank and search for all those good times without that game coming to the forefront of my mind. I don't know whether it's the defeat, or that's the manner in which, or Wembley, or a big game, or what, but I should be thinking of all the good things and all the positive things, rather than the one bloody game that, it's etched in my mind. I just can't get it out of my head. Losing in a playoff final, it's a horrendous feeling.
Now, the League Two playoff final, which you just mentioned, 2009. In the first leg, it was a 1-0 loss to Bury, who are now kind of dissolved club, aren't they, in some sort of league somewhere around England. The second leg was a 3-4 penalty win against Bury to reach the playoff final. Do you remember that penalty shootout and how it went down?
I can remember trying to get from the halfway line to the far end, running after one of the lads scored. I don't know whether it was Dave Worrell scored the winning penalty, or maybe Chris Humphrey. Somebody scored a winning penalty. I remember trying to get myself from the halfway line to the end. I think I took cramp in the celebrations. I was trying to chase someone, and it was brilliant. It was a great game. Bury were probably one of our biggest rivals at the time. They were a really, really tough team to play against. There's some really, really good players. Neil and Chris Patch was the manager, and two good lads as well. So it was a real battle we had with them. We had good battles with them all season, and we beat them 2-1, I think, in the game, which that made it 2-2 on aggregate, and then went to penalty kicks. And I suppose just the relief and the overriding emotions was obviously, you're going to Wembley, and it's something that we were all looking forward to, really.
Of course, in that game, it was very crucial because you got to the final that every player wants to play at Wembley, right? 53,000 not packed out, but it was near enough packed out for what you were so used to at, of course, the home of football. A 1-0 loss to Gillingham. Do you remember what minute the goal was scored for Gillingham? And, talk me through it, because, of course, it was not a nice minute to be scoring a goal in. It
was pretty much late on, 89, 90 minutes, something like that. It was a corner that wasn't a corner. So if anybody ever looks back at that decision maker by the referee, it was nowhere near a corner. He gave a corner. He was probably tired because it was a warm day, and he didn't want to turn around and run up the park. He gave a corner to get a breather. The Simeon Jackson, I can even tell you who scored it. A header, smallest man on the pitch, bang. I still think our fullback could have handled it or saved it on the line, but it wasn't to be. It was not nice. Not a nice feeling, to be honest.
Of course, there was a minute left in the game, and you headed one just over the bar. I don't know if you remember that. It was never really going to go in, but there was potential. It's just one of those jewels that you sort of won, but of course it went a bit off target. Do you remember that header? Do you remember the feelings of the emotions of the late minute? You could have got your team into a penalty shootout of such a crucial game.
Probably not. No. It's not good to me, really, is it? Jesus, it could have went 10 foot over the bar or into the car park, but it only counts if it goes in the net, really. So no, I wouldn't. I just, that game is just it probably hurt so much because of the goal, the circumstances, the timing. Wembley, the circumstances surrounding it would probably hurt you a little bit more. It does leave a bit of taste.
The following season, 2009-2010, your playing career is slowly but surely coming to a halt. You finished 12th, 63 points, 17 wins, 17 losses, 12 draws. A 90th minute equaliser versus Bury in a 1-1 draw. Do you remember that game?
No, I can remember getting old, all right. I can remember getting old. I can remember when you're starting to get the other side of your career, and you're starting to try to hang on, and because you love the game and you just want to play. I can remember once or twice I struggled that season in one or two games, to be honest. Wasn't quite myself, and I think that was the season where I was kind of looking in the mirror and I'm kind of saying to myself, listen, the end is in sight. I was probably 36 or 35, 36 at the time, and it's a really, really tough thing to come to terms with. When your career, you can see the end. You can see that light is on, and you're reaching the end pretty quickly. So it's a tough thing to come to terms with. It's tough to get your head around. But yeah, I can remember once or twice that season I struggled. I did struggle. I don't know whether it was trying to get over that final. I don't know whether it was what it was. But yeah, the final hit us hard. And I don't think I was ever the same. We'd lost Grant Holt as well. And we know the consequences. If you didn't win, you were going to lose Grant Holt. We knew that. We didn't have him the following season. He went to Norwich, our top goal scorer. So yeah, it was pretty well summed up there. Yeah, the end is in sight.
You were released from your contract at the end of that season after playing 38 games. And then Southend came calling for your last show, the final show that you had as a football player. You signed as the player, but also as the reserve team manager, which is quite an unusual contract to be getting, a first team managerial role while also trying to focus on the end of your playing career.
Well, I wasn't supposed to play. I wasn't supposed to play. Paul Sturrock rang me on the Sunday, and he just said to me, "Pack your bags. I'll send you the postcode." And I had no idea where I was going, what I was doing. He says, "And don't go bring boots." He says, "You don't need any boots." He says, "Bring a whistle and a stopwatch. That's all you need." So, I wasn't supposed to play, but that time Southend had a couple of relegations back to back, if I recall correctly. And Paul Sturrock was coming in to more or less rebuild the football club. I think it's gone through some financial turbulence or whatever. But yeah, there wasn't much of a squad when we got there. My introduction to coaching or to managing or to coaching was on the Monday morning. He chucked a sheet of paper and a whistle at me, and he says, "On you go, get on with it." And I like, "Well, what do you want me to do with this?" He says, "Well, there's the players that you have available for you this morning. You put a smile on their face. Get out and put a smile on their face." And I said, "Well, am I not training myself?" "No, I told you not to bring boots." So, and I used to try and pick odd numbers in training. And when he'd say to you, somebody would say to you, "Well, we've only got 17. Do you want to get one of the kids over to make it 18, 9v9? And I used to say, "Nah." I used to do it deliberately so I could join in myself. I could make the numbers up. So, it was, my career. I didn't go to Southend to play, but I ended up playing, I don't know how many, 30, 40 games. Made my last Football League appearance in 2013, I think, at the age of 38. So, yeah, it was a baptism of fire coaching the first team coach, first assistant manager, or whatever you want to call it. And then obviously I took the reserves on as well. I set up the reserves where the youth team and the subs could get some game time. And we organised the fixtures ourselves. And there was times where I was driving the van, the minibus, picking the team, doing the warm-up, packing the kit away. I played 90 minutes in the game, packed the kit away, and then drive the bus back. So, yeah, it was a really, really baptism of fire. Some would say jack of all, master of none, but I had to do every job that was asked of us, really, to be fair. So, it was some memory, some time, and it was some learning curve, to be quite honest.
You signed a 2-year deal as the player manager, an extension after that, and you managed to stay there, I believe, until about 2018, 2019. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I had probably 7.5, 8 years. Yeah, I was there for about,
And then obviously you went on to go to Bristol Rovers. But before we talk about the opening of your recent managerial career, what was the final game like that you played at Southend? Did you understand it to be your final game? The fans, everything? Because to retire after playing for so long must have been quite something. I didn't realise it was going to be my last game. I always thought I played 40 games for Southend. I played as if, this is the last one. This is the last one, because I probably wasn't supposed to be playing. I shouldn't have been playing. I would only play if we had injuries or we were short of bodies. I never knew when the last game was, but I knew it was coming at some. I was in the midst of it, and the game, any one of them could be my last game. So, and it was never anything. It was always probably, for me, it was always about the team, the club, the players. I never made things about myself, so but it would not have been any type of fanfare or pom-poms or singing and dancing about it. No, it would have been something quiet, something in the back of my own mind. But no, I wouldn't have. I think it was Bradford. It might have been. I don't know whether it was Bradford or Wimbledon away. Gary Lockett, the now one of the directors at Southend, to be able to tell you a lot better than me. His memory is better than mine. But I think it was Wimbledon away, and it turned out to be my last game. I never knew at the time it was my last game, because I just never knew when I would be used or needed again.
So I was in and out of the team, on and off the bench, filling in here and there when needed. But yeah, I was more or less concentrating on coaching and trying to forge my career in coaching.
Well, Bristol Rovers in League One set it off quite quick. You joined as a defensive coach. Within months, manager Darryl Clark, who has most recently been at Cheltenham Town, was sacked. So you had to take charge and go alone. I believe in December of 2018, you were the caretaker, 10 points from possible 15, and so much more in between. I mean, tell me the story of what happened there, because somehow you went from being a defensive coach to first team manager.
Well, it was. We walked in. I walked in one Thursday morning. In I come. And it was real somber in the office. It was somber in the office. There was something, when you know it's not right. I just didn't get the right feeling when I walked in. And I said, I won't swear. I said, who's died? Yeah, lads, who's died? And geez, I could have put my foot in it. Somebody could have died. And then Darryl had just popped his head round the door, and he says, Coco, can I speak to you outside? So I've gone now. I'm quickly racking my brain, and I'm quickly, what's going on here? What's happening? And he's just said to me, look, I'm going to be dismissed here. I've agreed it, shook hands with the club. Things are not working out. He said, do me a favour, take the job. And I said, so what do you mean take the job? Again, like I'm trying to process and compute things. And he says, well, I've spoke to the board. I've agreed my severance and all that, shaking hands, and I'm moving on, or sacking, whatever the case may be. But I've told them not to look elsewhere. We've got a manager in house. And I said, Jesus, thanks very much. I says, what? So I pulled then. I says, well, I'll ask Marcus. So we pulled Marcus Stewart, who was Darryl's assistant. And I said, well, look, if I take it on, will you stay on with me? And Marcus said no, he was going to go with Darryl as well. So I had no staff then. So I said, Jesus, guys. And before I even thought about it, quickly dawned on us that we were going to Sunderland away on Saturday in front of 40,000, and we weren't having a good time. So I don't know. Yeah, I suppose it was always something I wanted to try, I wanted to do. Obviously, I don't know whether I would have taken it on had Darryl not been the one that pushed me, had Darryl not been the one that recommended me. But yeah, I cut a long story short. We quickly rearranged training, 10:30, put it back an hour. I addressed the players. First thing I'm guessing I would have spoke about would have been honesty, would have been run through brick walls for me. Character, resilience. I guess that's where my team talk would have come in. Yeah, and then before I knew it, we were stood on the sidelines at Sunderland away on the Saturday afternoon, which we'd played really, really well. I remember we stopped up at Middlesbrough. I think Tony Poulos was the Middlesbrough manager, and he afforded us training grounds. So we stopped off at Middlesbrough. We'd done a bit of training there. We were staying in the hotel on that Friday night. I remember walking on one or two patches of play. And the lads are looking at me, lads. I said, just hit him on the diagonal. He flicks it on. You run down the side. And we're into a crossing situation. We're into we're at their back four. And I was like 10 minutes into the game. The patch in the play had only come off. And I'm like stood on the sideline. I'm thinking, here you go, Jose Mourinho, Jose Coughlan, we gone 1-0 up away at Sunderland. And I'm like, and we just worked on that yesterday. And people were looking and saying, that'll never work. Alex Rodman flicks it on down the side to Alex Jakubiak, his legs in behind. And it was just small little things that we give the players. And they, it come off. And I felt, I have to be honest, I suppose every manager will understand what I'm saying. There is moments where you feel $1 million. When something comes off, you work on something, you identify a weakness in the opposition. And yeah, it was, I suppose, the buzz, the emotion, the butterflies in your stomach, the feeling was just that day. The whole feeling was unbelievable. It's a feeling I'll never forget, to be quite honest with you. Excitement, adrenaline, trepidation, all them words. Every emotion you go through on the side. We lost 2-1, but I remember we hit the bar in about the 85th minute. We give them a scare of their lives, by the way. We give them a scare of their lives. We've done really, really well, and we should have come away with a 2-2 draw. And then, if I remember rightly, we won the following week. We won the next 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
And we got onto a little bit of a roll, and the confidence and the self-belief started to return, But Yeah, we Bristol Rovers. We were dead buried that year. Remit was to if we're going down, we go down respectfully. We don't wave a white flag. And I was kind of like, no, not on my watch. I can get something out of this group of players, and we should never. I don't know whether we were 7 points short or something when we took the job. 23rd in the table, 7 points short. We ended up finishing 15th. And we done really, really well. To be fair, the lads were brilliant, and it was a great turnaround. And to stay in the league that year was a minor miracle. And the fair play to the lads and the crowd. They were different class as well. Home and away. So it was one big effort. And we stayed in, yeah. And then we had an unbelievable season the following season after that. But all the time, it wasn't. There was a handshake with the owner, and he didn't honour the handshake, and it wasn't. It wasn't. I don't know. It was strange. It was strange at the time, you know. But the club was wanting to move in a different direction. It was wanting to change its process on recruitment. It was wanting to go down a different avenue. And I'm thinking, well, look, we're fourth in the table. Just relax and just let me manage the club. We've stayed up last year. Now we're building fourth in the table. We can make playoffs. And it was going on for weeks and weeks behind the scenes. And I just couldn't get through to them. They just wanted to do things their own way. And unfortunately, then I promised a couple of lads contracts, senior lads, get them sorted. And I wasn't able to deliver the lads what I promised them. And I just felt I let players down. I felt if I can't give you what I promised you, what's the point? I did. I felt I let the players down a little bit, not being able to deliver on certain things to them and certain promises, and I didn't like that feeling.
There was obviously rumours coming out of the club that you were looking to leave, and that would have been why, because the club weren't, weirdly enough, too impressed with what you were doing, although you were in a very good position. And then the club came out a few days later and granted permission for you to join to talk at least to Mansfield Town after the previous 2 rejections. Now, just before we talk about the time at Mansfield Town, Tom Lockyer is a player that's now playing for Luton Town. He's obviously had his ups and downs in his career. What was he like on and off the pitch as a player who's now setting a lot of good standards in the Premier League?
Yeah, Lux was the captain. He was a brilliant lad, great character, honest as the day is long. You know, he's the one I always remember seeing Tom Lockyer throughout his career, and I always remember. Well, he's not 6'4". How is he going to be a centre half? But Lux could jump 7 foot, 8 foot. The way he jumped, the way he leapt, he led the dressing room. He was a leader of men. He was just an honest pro. He'd give his all every day. Anything he was doing, he would give us all. He wanted to be the best at it. If he was making you a cup of tea, you had to be the best cup of tea anybody could make. He was that type of character, that type of person. A brilliant lad around the dressing room. I always say I was so lucky to have worked with him, because he's not only a great player, but he's a great lad, great character, great person, great human being. And obviously, I hope things work out for him and he can get back onto the pitch, because I know football is his love. I know he has a passion for the game.
Mansfield Town came up next. On the 17th of December 2019, you were appointed as the manager. This is a crazy season for coronavirus, which I just want to touch upon in a moment, if you don't mind. A debut was 1-1 with Northampton, and then, of course, COVID postponed the season. But the debut with Northampton 1-1 with Mansfield, what was going on?
Yeah, we'd come up. I'd obviously, I'd made that decision. I needed to get home, and anyway, I needed to be home beside missus and kids for our own personal reasons. But should I have went back to Bristol in the summer? I don't know. I don't know whether I should have. I think I should have maybe shook hands and had a partner of the ways. But I just was attached to the players in the dressing room, and I had an affinity with them, and they were running through brick walls for me. So, yeah, and I suppose it's my love of the game and the emotion and the buzz that you get being in the dugout. So I went back, and anyway, probably shouldn't have in hindsight. And in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have taken the Mansfield job. I probably should have maybe just done what I was supposed to do and take bloody time out. Because I'd been away. Obviously, I had me 2 years at Shrewsbury, and then I had 8 years at Southend, and then I had a couple of seasons at Bristol Rovers. So all in all, I was away for about 12, 13 years. and I was missing my kids, I was missing my missus, and obviously we'd one or two private things that we had to deal with ourselves. So yeah, I probably shouldn't have taken Mansfield on at the time, but I did. Look, we survived. We stayed. The club was in a bad. I think the 22nd, 21, 22 when we took over. So it was of utmost importance that we stayed in the league. We kept them up. We kept them in the league. And then we had financial fair play, I believe. There was a financial fair play that come in, and we had to. It was £1.5 million, I do believe, that every club had to work towards. So there was a case of having to move players off the books, and it was just an unbelievable. I just one step forward, two steps back. I don't know whether that makes sense. And it was just nothing. I could get no continuity. I could get no consistency. And the COVID would come in and training, and it wasn't good. It wasn't nice. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong. It was just one of those, and I probably didn't deal with it great either, because I'd never known that period before in my life, that just nothing going for me. Every time in playing and coaching and things have always went relatively well for me. I've always dug out results, and but I don't know why I just couldn't get the club any type of consistency, any type of form. There wasn't. I don't think there was a togetherness. I don't think we had that character, that resilience. I don't think we're all on the same hymn sheet. But again, that's obviously my job to try and fix all that as a manager. And I just couldn't. I just couldn't fix it. I just couldn't fix the club. I just couldn't help the club. I just couldn't help myself, the players. And then obviously it was just we didn't get any run, any continuity. There was nothing that I could look back on and say, yeah, that we've done that brilliant. We could hone in on that, and we could keep working on that. We always seemed to take one step forward. I remember we played Bradford at home, and we absolutely smashed them 3-0. And it was one of the best team performances I've seen, not only from a League Two team, but from any team. In the energy, the legs, they ran. It was brilliant, and the atmosphere in the ground and all. And I'm saying that's what I've come for. And then the next game we go out and we lose away at Oldham, and we just couldn't get into any type of rhythm or any type of consistency, any type of continuity going. It was unfortunate. It didn't work, and obviously in the end, as all managers do, if things don't work out for them results wise, they pay the price.
COVID obviously sparked in this season, in the first season that you were at the club, and it was a weird time for everyone. Many clubs were losing money. It would have affected Mansfield more than any other club like Liverpool or Manchester United, because they're not as big of a club in terms of reputation. What were you doing in the 3 months that you were off? Did you have to do Zoom calls with the players? Was there regulations that you had to follow?
You see, you probably hit the nail on the head there. Any dressing room I've been in, I always had camaraderie, and I always had a togetherness, and I always had good relations with the players, with the dressing room, with the staff. And I don't know, I just couldn't build any type of relationship with the players. I just couldn't build any type of camaraderie or any type of togetherness. So yeah, it was really, really difficult. I recall going into the training ground and doing, I think we could walk in groups of 3 or 5. I can't mind what the rules were, but we could walk in small groups. And I recall going into the training ground and putting sessions on for the lads and breaking them up into small little groups and just doing some individual bits and pieces, just trying to keep us ticking over. But for that length of time, to go without football and to go without seeing all your lads, all your dressing room and all your team, it was like, totally, it was scary, really, to be quite honest with you, what was going on. But I've got to remember there was people passing away, there was people dying in the world. So yeah, it would have been a scary time for everybody. But in football terms, I don't think you can build anything if you're going to be away from each other that length of time and things like that. It wasn't nice. I missed the game, and you're on Zoom. What does Zoom do? You can go on the phone. You want to be around people. You want to be building things. We come back then to training. I don't know whether it was. I don't know. I wouldn't know the dates or the times, but we come back in, and there was a little bit of involvement with players leaving and new players coming in and things like that. And we just never hit the ground running. We just never got going. So yeah, it was. COVID was a tough time for everybody. But like I said, we've come through it with our life. Lives still intact. A lot of people haven't. So. It was a tough time for the whole world, I believe.
Sheffield United under-23's job came next, but the most important job, which has been the most recent job that you've had, was Newport County. You signed on a 2.5-year contract in October of 2022. You took charge of Newport when they were 19th in League Two, and after 14 matches, you finished 15th. The first game was a 1-0 win over Colchester on the 22nd of October 2022, and you went 4 games unbeaten. First game until the 4th game, no losses. It started quite positively at Newport.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I did. I have to say that the 2 seasons that we had at Newport, we've done an unbelievable job. We've done a brilliant job because it was against all the odds. It was basically firefighting every day. And yeah, we done it. Look, I don't often say this, and pat yourself on the back. And what are we, males, alpha males? We don't do it, do we? We tend to. But yeah, I look in the mirror and I say, well, look, the circumstances, how things were, what we went through. Even we grew assets, as well. We coached the lads, and they ended up selling Will Evans there not long back, the striker, left back, turned striker. So we created a pathway from the academy for the players. I think we had 4 academy debutants, and I think of the academy, 8 of them in total had been in and around the first team, either on the bench or starting. So we were creating all along. We were creating that pathway for the kids. Yeah, it was. I think it was a great time. I do honestly. I think it was 2 great seasons. Given what we had to put up with, given what the circumstances was, and I met some great people. The fans were unbelievable as well. To be honest, it was really, really good. Really. I really enjoyed me 2 seasons. I did, honestly. I really, really did. There was just a togetherness on and off the pitch. There was a work ethic, and there was a camaraderie. And the lads played some really, really good football, to be quite honest with you. I recall one, it was the last year, we beat Gillingham 1-0, and it was on the end of, was it a 22-pass sequence? Will Evans put a volley in the back of the net. And we then had full houses against Swindon, Wrexham. We beat Stockport, who got promoted. So yeah, look, I really enjoyed my time there. I really did. It was a really good and productive 2 years. Would have loved to carry that on into the 3rd year this year and be afforded a few more players to be able to maybe push on. I always talk about 3 years. Dave Chandler, Stockport, Nigel Clough at Mansfield, they've been promoted out of this year in their 3rd year, this division in their 3rd season. So the 3rd year was always going to be important. And if I couldn't get them out of the division this year, I probably would have turned around and said, right, well, 3 years, enough is enough. But yeah, we ran out of players. We had a really small squad, and there was times in the season we were going with 12 and 13 players. I was asking players to play 58 games. I was asking these top goal scorer, Will Evans, at times to go from centre forward to go back and play left wing back. So there was a lot of variables and things going on. But had we had a stronger January window, had I been afforded a stronger January window around the Man United's game, and the money was there, so there's no reason why I shouldn't have had a strong window. But had we been able to get some players in January, I think we would have got promoted, or we would have been in the playoffs. Because we should never have been a promotion chasing team. We should have been a team that's fighting for our lives. And to turn a team that were fighting for their lives into a promotion chasing team, a team that could compete with Man United, a team that could be Wrexham's and Stockports that were going to get promoted. Really proud of what we managed.
Absolutely, and it took an 87th minute goal from Brentford to not even knock you out of the cup, because you scored the 96th minute equaliser in that game and you lost 1-4 on penalties. But to play against the Brentford side that had done really well in the Premier League, Thomas Frank, a really good manager, what was he like? What was the whole game like, and the situation to score so late on?
I thought he was class. Really, really nice guy. He some really good discussions with him before, during, and after the game. I remember him coming to us during the game, and he complimented us on our organisation, on our structure. He said, see what you've done there, and I thought, wow, he's a Premier League manager coming and talking to us, and he was just so humble. He appreciated our hard work. He appreciated the way we were set up, and our tactics. And it was a decent game of football. It was a decent game of football. It was on a Tuesday night because we just knocked Charlton out. And and the place was packed again. I remember giving Kimban Roy his debut. He debuted the season before that, but Kimban, the young 18-year-old kid as well, he came off the bench, I think, and scored. And it was just unbelievable to see one of your own, or one of the kids that you've maybe put a little bit of faith in and give him his chance, score a goal. To be up against Premier Leagues. Nathan played as well. Nathan Collins, who I know well, obviously played with his dad. So yeah, it was a really good evening. It was a good evening, and our players and our fans represented the football club really, really well up against top class opposition. But Thomas Frank, I thought, was a class act. Really good guy. Really humble, and he no problems coming upstairs after the game and sharing a beer with us and going through his training and his thought process on the game and the Premier League. And yeah, it was some good times, some good memories, really good memories.
And of course, one of the pinnacles of your career, the game against Manchester United, which you're going to go ahead and talk about just for a moment. The FA Cup, it was in the FA Cup, one of the most prestigious tournaments in English football. Before it was Manchester United in the draw, when you got Manchester United, the build-up to the draw, what was going on?
I nearly crashed the car. I was going back down to Newport on the M1, and my phone just went into overload. Was meltdown, and when it came up on I think it was my daughter Shannon, actually, she rang me and she was screaming down the phone, I got Man United. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So I nearly crashed my car going down the M1 when we heard. But we'd actually drew on the Saturday against Eastleigh, and they got a late penalty, which was obviously we got an apology on the Monday, the morning of the game, or the morning of the FA Cup draw. And I'm thinking, oh no, Man United in the next round. We've got to get past Eastleigh first. But there was so much. As soon as Man United come out, the pressure then that gets heaped on the players, the pressure that gets heaped on them young shoulders, ramped up. And Eastleigh's shoulders as well, because it would have been a pressure situation, a pressure game for both sets of players. And I have to say, both sets of players dealt with the occasion really, really well, to be honest. But yeah, I suppose what the old cliche, concentrate on the next game. Don't worry about the cup. Don't worry about Man United. Impossible. Everybody's thinking about it. Everybody's talking about it. There's flights being booked from Dublin. There's people looking for tickets. There's a new stand going up behind the goal. And here I am trying to tell people in the dressing room and the media, no, we're just concentrating on Saturday. We're just concentrating on our next opponent. And you're looking around and you're thinking, well, there's no one thinking about your next opponent. But we were quite lucky because our next opponents, sandwiched in between Man United, was when we beat Eastleigh, was Wrexham before and Swindon after. So they were going to be full houses, and they kept the stand in as well, the false stand that they erected. So they were always going to be sellouts. The Wrexham game was brilliant, rivalry, two Welsh clubs, the build up to that as well. So it was a special month, to be honest. It was a really special month, and we'd come through. We beat Wrexham 1-0 at home. And obviously we beat Swindon then 2-1 the following week after Man United. So Man United were sandwiched in between those two games. But that was an unbelievable 3-4 week period. Unbelievable. It was brilliant to be involved in. I could only imagine that as a player, I'd say they would have enjoyed it. They would have loved it. Training then goes to the next level, as you can imagine. People with broken legs and their head falling off their shoulders are now all of a sudden fit to play. It was just brilliant. Just trying to get tickets sorted, though. The Wrexham game was a nightmare. Just couldn't get enough tickets for people. And then the Man United one, and then the Swindon one. It was just trying to get everybody sorted and trying to get on top of things. And then obviously then you got the media. So I had no real time to slow down and to sit down and have a word with myself or plan anything or do anything, because it was just 100 mile an hour with those type of fixtures, those type of games. But we beat Eastleigh in the replay. The lads were fantastic that night. There was some of the best football I've seen them play that night. They were really, really good. And the Eastleigh fans as well, as in fairness, can give us a good shout and give us a good clap as well after the game. And the lads were superb. And that was a really, really pressure situation for them to perform in and to play in. And I thought they were excellent. And we'd stopped off and we got a beer and we're on our way back to the hotel in Eastleigh. We stayed in Eastleigh that night and done a warm down the next morning. But we got the lads a beer and we had a little bit of a sing-song in the hotel. And it was, it was just one of those things in your life that don't come around that often, and you just had to try and enjoy it as best you could. And also I was trying to relax them as well, because going into the following Saturday against Wrexham, having taken care of the Eastleigh game, now we've got Man United, that's all sorted. I then had to refocus them for Wrexham. And I think I was lucky it was Wrexham, because I think they refocused themselves. I think the Wrexham game took care of itself, because it was a massive, massive game with a lot of media coverage as well. So we were quite lucky that it was Wrexham, because anybody else probably wouldn't have drummed up that interest. And people may have stayed away and kept the money, kept a few quid for the following week against United. But yeah, for 3 weeks back to back, three games back to back at Rodney Parade, we were getting 9,000-10,000 in, full house. Place was bouncing. The place was absolutely bouncing. That's one thing I'll never forget as well. Yeah.
For players, there's always the dream and the ambition to play at a stadium like Old Trafford. But from a club's perspective, you'd want to play at your home stadium to get more revenue in the door. And this game against Manchester United went down quite well. Then Manchester United went 2-0 up, and then it was 2-2 in the 47th minute. And then, of course, Anthony does this crazy celebration after he scores. And, of course, Højlund does score quite late in the 94th minute. Of course, the club in Newport completed a takeover in January, so they're now no longer fan-owned. But Manchester United, to go ahead and they were leading the game, then you've come back to 2-2. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, what's going through your mind?
Well, the first thing you say, and I think every manager will say this to any team that goes out in the park, keep it tight. First 10 minutes, make sure it's nice and tight. Don't give anything away, nothing silly, nothing sloppy, all that. And within 10 minutes, you're 2-0 down. And we're thinking, oh my God, this could go 4, 5, 6 before half time. So we made 1 or 2 adjustments. And in fairness, we trained for 3 things. There was no point in me telling the lads, they all know Man United, they all watch Man United. So there's no point in me doing or overcooking the Man United. So we worked on 3 things, because I follow Man United, obviously. So there was 3 areas that I was looking to exploit Man United on. One was set pieces, whether it be direct or whether it be second phase. The other area we felt we could get into the shot zone, because Man United gave up, and still do, give up a lot of goals from areas of the pitch. And then the other one was crossing. So those were the 3 things that we tried to hone in on all week with the players. Lovely. We got 2 goals, one from a cross and one from a shot from the shot zone. We couldn't quite manage a goal off a set piece, but it was great that those type of areas came available to us. It was great that we worked it, we trained it, and it was great, and it is great, and it's a great feeling when it comes off in game. But we were fortunate that day, because Man United could have easily gone 3-0 up. I think, was it Garnacho or was it Fernandez? I think Garnacho had a great chance and he didn't square the ball. So 3-0, I think, would have been game over, done. But yeah, look, one thing about my group of players, that dressing room, they never beat. They never know when they beat. They never wave a white flag. They never go under. And I knew this. I knew we just needed one little break, one little bit of luck. I knew United were vulnerable in them 3 areas as well: set pieces, shot zone, and I suppose when the Blin takes on the shot and he scores, it was an unbelievable goal, a screamer. I suppose the whole place, the roof just came off the place. And then when the second goal went in, just after half time, 2 minutes after half time, but I tried to stay away from the game at half time, rather unusually. I didn't want to go through the game and break the game up and start talking about Man United and FA Cup and talking tactics at half time. I steered clear of any tactical talk at half time, just to try and relax them, just to try and give them a couple of key notes and a couple of little reminders of what they're doing well and how well they're doing. And lo and behold, they went out in the second half, and straight away within 3 minutes of the second half, bang, we're 2-2. And then we had a chance to go 3-2 up, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? And then just for 10, 15 minutes, it was just a case of just settle down and just get through it. And I was saying, ref, just blow the whistle. We'll just blow the whistle. We'll go back to Old Trafford and we'll have a day out and we'll make some more money for the football club, But he wouldn't blow the whistle. And lo and behold, top players, they go down and they punish you, don't they? They go down and bang, bang. But yeah, it was 3-2, and then we just took the kitchen sink. And we were probably caught up the pitch. Højlund scores 4-2, game over. So you may as well get beat 3-2 as 4-2. It doesn't really matter. So we give it a go, and the boys equipped themselves really, really well. The club turned out really, really well that week. It was a special week. Yeah, it was a special week. Great memories. And again, look, the club needed the funding. The club needed the finances. The club needed the money. And yeah, it was brilliant that I could obviously leave the club in a much better position than when I found that when I took it on. Yeah, I am, and I will keep telling myself that I am proud of our achievements.
The Manchester United players, we're going to speak on Erik Ten Hag shortly in a moment, but the players like Bruno Fernandes, Garnacho, I mean, Ten Hag certainly didn't go light on you with Anthony Hoyland. These top-end players failing against Newport County is quite something. Maybe he was quite worried about losing, I'm not entirely sure. But was there a sense of arrogance from these players where they're so used to playing in the Premier League and now they're coming down to a League Two side? Was there arrogance at half-time, full-time, things said to each other?
No, I wouldn't. If anything, I thought Manchester United equipped themselves excellently well, very professional. I think Harry Maguire and Bruno Fernandes, Scott McTominay made sure every player understood what the FA Cup means to the kids and to the people in Newport, because they stopped and they give every player an autograph or every fan an autograph. A picture with them. They went out of their way and to get around the fans and really make it a special occasion for them. So yeah, fair play to Manchester United, Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, and Bruno Fernandes for what they done. They had time for everybody. They made sure every little kid had his autograph and had his picture taken. They sent some jerseys in and some kit into us at the end of the game. So no, they were class. They were class. You know, a real professional club, obviously with professional standards, and it was good to see. They were well led that day by Harry Maguire, to be fair.
I think there's a lot of criticism with Erik Ten Hag, but I do think he does hold himself to account. I think he is definitely a good enough manager to be at a club like Manchester United. He certainly has the standards, and players should be up to those standards. Of course, you had quite a moment with him when he offered you a bottle of wine at the end of that game. Could you talk me through that when a Premier League manager's come up to you and then just giving you a bottle of wine?
Yeah, look, it was a nice gesture. It was a nice gesture from the club. I think he said Sir Alex Ferguson sent it down. So yeah, it was a lovely gesture, a bit of class. Again, the standards, the class is permanent, isn't it? So Manchester United have always been a class outfit. So yeah, it was a nice touch. And as a little bit, I didn't know what to. I don't drink wine, so I didn't know what to say. I just said, listen, I prefer Budweiser, but I'll take the wine. And anyway. And then when he told me how much it was, I said, "Oh, you better take it." So, but yeah, I was just trying to break the ice and just trying to have a little bit of a moment. And I think it was well set up for them because obviously Man U TV was there. They caught it. I always think if you're going to do something like that, maybe it should be done in private. But Man U TV was there. It was set up for good publicity, would we say? So yeah, I just break the ice and shook his hand and. On we go, yeah. We offered him a beer upstairs and things like that. He didn't quite take us up on that offer. So, but hey, that's each to their own.
With Erik Ten Hag and of course Thomas Frank, from what I kind of gather, I think Thomas Frank maybe you prefer a tiny bit more. With Erik Ten Hag, is there arrogance from the guy? I mean, I like the way he holds himself to account, but I do feel as if sometimes when he's being asked if he should leave, there's always a sense of I've won this in my former clubs and I'm going to do it again here.
Well. How many Dutch people do you know? Have you been to Holland? Have you been around Dutch people? Because the answer to that would be yes, the Dutch are a nation that they hold themselves like that. When it comes to football in particular, they have got a degree of arrogance. I believe you have to have an edge. You have to have arrogance. You have to have that side of you to certainly to manage Manchester United Football Club, to certainly to achieve in the game. So I don't have an issue with that. But yeah, I've bumped into, played against, I've been around following Ireland with the Dutch fans playing against Holland. I've always found Dutch people have that degree of arrogance. It's probably in their DNA. It's not, and that's not a criticism. That's just an observation. There is no harm in it at all. But yeah, I would suggest it's probably because he's from Holland. He's a Dutchman, and that's probably a common theme in most Dutch people. That little bit of arrogance, and that is not a criticism. That is just an observation.
Last but not least, I know we've kept you here for quite a while and I really appreciate your time, but we're going to build you a FIFA card as we always do here on the show. So, of course, FIFA is a commonly played football game that everyone plays, a rating from 1 to 99. And, of course, it's going to be based on the pinnacle of your career. So when you're playing for Argyle and winning all these PFAs and everything in between. So, do you play FIFA?
No,
No? Okay, so there's 6 categories. So let's start off with your pace. What would your pace be on Now EAFC?
Is there a 0 category?
There is, but we've never seen anything like it before.
Well, you'd have to put me in the 0 category then. No, I'd probably go, if you're scaling, are you scaling at 1 to 6?
No, there's six categories. I'm going to list them off. It's 1 to 99.
Oh, well, I wouldn't be the quickest. So where would that be? That would probably be mid-table or below.
Yeah, I'd say 65. Let's put 65 on there. Shooting. Now, you've had some goals in your career. We spoke about Forrest, the head of the black eye.
Well, goals. I could shoot with my head. I couldn't shoot with my feet. So, well, I could score a goal with my head, to be fair. So, fairly. I don't know. I think I got 43 goals or something like that in total in my career. So, which isn't bad, you know. I think I'd probably go higher up than mid, above mid-table.
What would you say, 75, 80?
Yeah, I'd probably go 80. Let's go
with 80.
That'd be head, not feet.
Passing is up next. What would that be?
I used to give the ball to the good players. I had a cross-field diagonal in my locker. But everything else, I used to just get it and pass it 10 yards to the better players. I used to say, here you go, and you work with it. I wouldn't say I give the ball away a lot, because I never tried to tread. I never tried to fire it through gaps or holes. I certainly wasn't cultured, but I don't think I'd give the ball away, to be honest. I used to just get it and give it. So yeah, I'd say the pass completion rate would be high in my career. Effective passes would be low, but that wasn't the question, so I'm going high again.
What would you put for that? Let's give you a number.
I'll go up around about 80 again, yeah.
Okay, 80, perfect. Yeah. Dribbling. It's more common now for defenders to have better dribbling, but for you're shaking your head.
I'm going to have to go in the relegation zone there. I never took anybody on in my life. I couldn't even get past anybody if I was driving a car. I wasn't a dribbler. I couldn't get by people. I wouldn't attempt to take people on. Don't think I've ever taken anybody on in my life. So I'd probably have to go 0.
Okay, we're going to put you 0 on there. The first person ever on the show to put as a rating of 0. Defending and physicality is up next. Let's do your defending. Obviously, it's got to be the highest stat on the card.
Yeah, I like physicality. And if the truth be known, the one thing I missed when I left the game or when I stopped playing was contact. I struggled a little bit, and I needed contact. I used to have to go in the gym and with Ben Sairn, and we used to go in the pads and the bag and the boxing, because I missed physical contact. I missed having the clashes and the man-to-man contact. So yeah, I'm probably going to go high on that one. Yeah, defending and physicality. I'm going to go high. I'm going to go probably 90 on that one.
90 on defending and physicality?
Yeah, 95 physicality.
95, beast of a card. Graham, what an absolute pleasure it's been. Just lastly from me, what is next in your managerial career? Because obviously you've just left Newport recently in the last few months. Are you looking to get it back into management, have a long-awaited break?
Well, I've had a good break. I've been out and about. I've gone to games, which gets the juices flowing. I'm helping my pal at Matlock, Ryan Creswell. I do a couple of sessions with him just to help him, because he's just gone in recently, taken over. So I know the difficulties when you take over at first. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. That's given me a little bit of a lease of life. I've done a lot of travelling over the last 2 months. I've gone away with my lad to Dortmund to watch Dortmund there 2 weeks ago. I took the kids over to watch Ireland and England. So yeah, in Dublin there was 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I've done a lot of travelling over the last 3 months. I'm probably just enjoying family time. But yeah, football is in my blood. Football is what I love. And I'd love an opportunity to maybe go in and carry on the good work that we've done at Newport.
Would there be a chance of going abroad, or would you like to stay in England, League One, League Two, Championship?
I'd go abroad all day long. I'd love to go abroad, yeah. Particularly if there was a bit of sun or it was a nice climate. I do like the weather. I do like the sun. Wouldn't rule out going abroad at all. And it's something that I'd like to try 1 or 2 different cultures, 1 or 2 different leagues, and just for the experience. Just have a little look at that. You know, that'd be something that I'd like to put on my CV. Yeah.
Graham Coughlan, has been an absolute pleasure. I'm so sorry I've kept you for so long. We've spoken too much about everything in your career. Manchester United, FIFA cards, Blackburn Rovers, Swindon, and everything in between. Thank you very much for joining me.
Brilliant, Jamie. Thank you. Thanks for having me.